On today's show, Dereck Lively is awesome. How can he become awesomer? We'll tell you on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
You are Locked On Mavs.
Great, Rusty.
Your daily Dallas Mavericks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Amazing.
Your team every day.
And welcome. You're locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show, making Locked On Mavs your first listen today. With the best way you can help us grow the show is listen every day on any podcast platform. Take us with you wherever you go. Even if you go on a plane, even if it gets canceled, you can do all that. Leave a 5-star review, like the video on YouTube, comment anything below. Let us know in the YouTube comment section how Dereck Lively can take another step forward. And joining me, the eternal optimist from Valley Sports Southwest. What you got for me, Dana Larson?
Dereck Lively season 2, baby.
Yes.
I cannot wait. And I love that you wanted to talk about it because this is one of my favorite things. And he is one of our favorite players. So this is fun because I felt like he had the perfect rookie season. And I'm excited just to think about what's next for him.
It's a very exciting topic. You start to think through, and I started to think about like past Mavs teams I've covered. And the first year I started covering the Mavs was the Yogi Ferrell season.
That's a flash from the past.
And you're like, that season you had Harrison Barnes, you had Durkin in one of his last years. You're like, there's just not a lot of interesting stuff to talk about in an off season. And then you go to this season, you're like, oh, we got Luka, Kyrie, just signed Klay Thompson. You got guys like Najee Marshall and Quentin Grimes coming in. They're new and interesting. Even Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington, they were still kind of new on the Mavs. And then you're like, oh yeah, they also have this one of the best rookies that was in the class last year. One of the best rookie centers we've ever seen in the NBA. And just absolutely incredible. So we're going to talk about Dereck Lively today. We'll talk about his ceiling. We'll talk about what's next for him. But let's just start with the next level for him. What did Dereck Lively prove to us this year? And I'm going to just start with the defensive end because one of the things the Mavericks desperately needed with the Luka era Mavs, they were looking for size. They were looking for credible size that could play in a playoff series, that could get them to the point where you're like, all right, we have an option there, where we have optionality. We talked about last week with Reggie about optionality with the lineups, how the Mavs have different looks that they can send out there. And Dereck Lively represents a look that the Mavs can put out there and be huge. 7'1", 7'7" wingspan, can credibly protect the rim, rebound, and then also get out and switch and can play in a playoff setting. And he proved that to us in year one, that he could play in a finals. Like, you don't get to know that about certain play. We don't know that about, like, do we know that about Joel Embiid? Like, I don't know. We haven't seen it yet. We've seen it from Dereck Lively. Not to say that he's better than Embiid, but just that he can play in that context. And it's wild that we already know that about Dereck Lively. And that's one of the first things that he's proved to me this year, and a huge thing.
Well, it's one of those things where everything came together. You had the perfect player, the perfect fit, the perfect team, the perfect situation. And so that's why it got to play out just like you described it. I mean, it's not very often that you get a player of his caliber that is joining a team that is in position to make a deep playoff run. I mean, if you want to look at, all the comps we like to make with Tyson Chandler, I mean, Tyson Chandler was drafted very similar sort of look, kind of player. And he goes to a terrible team. And it was a really rough start to his career, right?
Where they were playing him and Eddie Curry together. Like, it was like, what a weird thing for them to do in Chicago.
Won, as many games, as we could count on one hand here. I mean, it was, and that's what so often happens. And so for Dereck Lively to have come into this really solid situation and fit perfectly, it's the perfect puzzle piece, the perfect fit. He was everything they needed. And then he was, mature beyond years. He was smart beyond years. He comes in and he averages nearly 9 points and 7 rebounds a game and shoots 74%. I mean, there were so many things that just played out so beautifully. For this to be, a perfect situation, as you said, to be able to see what this looks like, deep into a playoff run for someone like that, it was that's why it's so exciting. Our cup runneth over, with what we can talk about here with him. Yeah.
Do you know the last time a rookie averaged 20 minutes per game in the regular season on a 50-win team?
I don't.
How about Greg Oden, 2008, 2009? That long ago. Dereck Lively and Chet Holmgren both did that last year. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did it in 1970. He had the most minutes, 43 minutes a game. That was a pretty good rookie. David Robinson in 1990. Wes Unseld, 1969.
Another good rookie. Yeah, David Robinson. I mean, those are the kind of players that you'd like to think we're going to, talk about Lively in the future in that sort of a vein.
There's another one for the folks at home. The only two rookie centers to play on a 50-win Mavs team. DJ Benga and Wang Zichi. The only ones on this list that I have here on StatHead. Let me know if I'm wrong on that.
Gosh.
But
I'm not challenging you.
It doesn't happen. It does not happen for you to have a rookie center to play on a successful team. Rookie centers play on other teams and have shown good numbers and all that. I mean, you look at some of the numbers of, even Embiid that we talked about, or, some of these others. The teams aren't good because it takes a while for them to figure it out. And just like you said, he came into the perfect situation possible. And I think the other things that he proved to us was maturity and preparedness. The maturity that he showed this season from the jump. I mean, we'll go back. I'll bang the drum. Isaac and I used to bang all the time. When we talked to him at Media Day, it felt like we were talking to a 10, 15-year vet. And you hear it in his voice. You see how focused he was. And sometimes you think about that, and Grant Williams seemed like that to us too. Sometimes it comes off that way, but then sometimes it comes off and it works and fits exactly the way that it's supposed to. And that's what happened with Dereck Lively. And he was prepared for the moments that were put in front of him. And I think part of that is Jason Kidd doing little things like not starting him game one, or putting him on the bench when they got Daniel Gafford because he didn't want him to hit the rookie wall. I think the Mavs definitely helped him in some of these situations and helped him moving forward. But you got to give a lot of credit to Dereck Lively too for accepting those things, being ready for those things, and being prepared for whatever was thrown at him his first year.
Yeah, and you know what preparation does? It makes you unafraid. And that's the other thing that I love, right? I mean, that's the thing I talk about in my life all the time, whether it's with people, young people coming into the business or my own daughters. The preparation is everything. And if you are prepared, you can go into big moments and not be afraid of them. And Dereck Lively has no fear. That we have seen, and it's because of he's just had this great, and we credit his mom so much for the way that she raised him as a young man and also as a basketball player, because he is really, really well prepared. And that's what this last year, and why I'm excited about next year. He got to start building the catalog, right? In his mind of scouting reports, of the league, of tendencies. And he now has all of that experience and that material to feed off of going forward. He was doing all this for the first time. He was facing guys for the first time. He was stepping in against Rudy Gobert for the first time. Now he knows. So now we've got, a guy who's really fearless, loves to prepare, all of that, with now a year of experience. And he's a guy that's the other thing I'm excited about too, he's had his first off season. He's been playing basketball probably year round for like ever, and this is a guy who's done nothing but grow vertically. And now he can take a little time, right? He can have some time to start to sort of build a little bit of strength, like we saw him with those
to grow horizontally. Is that what
to grow a little wider, right? Let's build a base here. Let's get some strength here. Because he is going to not only be, mentally, he's so ready for the moment, but it'll be great to see him sort of feel like he has an advantage physically too. Now, he's not going to have an advantage for a while. He's still only 20 years old. He's still, more of a slender frame. And you didn't see guys like Rudy Gobert or even Tyson Chandler, who never really put on a ton of muscle and weight through his career, but you're not going to get up to 260 anytime soon. I mean, he's sitting at, 230 right now. You just need to start little by little because there's so much you can do with a stronger base and better balance. That's really when we're talking on the defensive end, that's going to be, I think will be a big thing for him.
We'll absolutely talk about some of the things that Dereck Lively needs to do next, but let's talk about his ceiling coming up. What could Dereck Lively be if he puts it all together and does all these things? We'll talk about that and more coming up.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. I love sports. I love them so much. I don't want them to ever stop. And with the Olympics, they kind of aren't going to stop this season. There's all kinds of things that you can do on FanDuel for the Olympics. The men's basketball, right now, as I'm recording this, the men's USA team is minus 400 to win gold. 400 doesn't seem like very high odds right there. Canada's plus 1,000. They're kind of close right there. France plus 1,500. Serbia plus 1,500. That one's kind of interesting. On the women's side, the USA women minus 2,400. There you go, right there. France women is minus 2,200. But the difference in there is absolutely insane. You can do all kinds of stuff on FanDuel and see what else is available. Medal specials, like who gets the most medals. USA is minus 550. China's plus 350. Great Britain is plus 4,200. So there's a huge gap right there. All kinds of stuff you can do on FanDuel all summer long. There's all kinds of boosts and bonus daily. There's something for everyone all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com. Start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sportsbook betting partner of Major League Baseball.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, listening every day. If you want to support the show, text me, get text alerts from me on Mavs rumors and more. I'll do extra content and stuff throughout the season. Subscribe to our Locked On Mavs Insiders program. If you want to get texts, 214-643-8637, or click the link in the description wherever you're listening or watching this show. All right, Dana, we're talking about Dereck Lively, talking about some of the things he proved to us last season. Now let's talk about what his ceiling could potentially be, because it's kind of exciting, right? Like, it's kind of exciting to see, to talk about all this and to see that he's got a lot that he can do going forward. He showed us a very good base. He talked about building a foundation. I think he's built that with his play on the court. One of the things that came out about, from the Mavs, Tim McMahon reported on his show that the Mavs believe that Dereck Lively could be a defensive anchor like Kevin Garnett or Joakim Noah. When you hear something like that, Dana, what do you think about Dereck Lively?
Well, I feel like, okay, we're going to go ahead. We realized he can take just about anything. So let's go ahead and heap a ton of expectations on him too, right? Because, Kevin Garnett is a defensive player of the year. He's a Hall of Famer. He's, was a perennial all defensive player. So if we're going to start doing that, I like it because it seems like Dereck Lively is somebody who doesn't shy away from those kind of things and probably enjoys setting, very high goals and wanting to work towards them. It is asking a lot, of course, for him. We even heard Nico Harrison say he's a guy who can be an all-star and be an all defensive player. And I even think, I'd like to just start with the all defensive player, right? Like, that's something, if he can start being in the top 10 in voting.
Oh, you want to just start there as one of the 10 best defenders in the NBA? You want to just
let's start there. And at 20 years old, let's get top 5. Let's go second team. Let's put those things out there. But I mean, it's really, really a lot to ask of somebody to be Kevin Garnett, at this stage in his career.
The all defense got a little easier this season. They made it positionless. And so now, like, first team this year, Gobert, Wembanyama, Bam, and Anthony Davis all made it. So there's 4 centers. So it used to just be you could only get 2 centers on there. And now you got 4 on 2 teams. So,
but listen to the guys you just named, right? So when is he going to be ready to be in that conversation? And I want him to be, don't get me wrong. I want him to be, but those are some really great proven players who have been in this league for a long time. Right. I'm not saying he's going to do it this year. But
part of me wonders, well, so Wembanyama is the only one that made it on this list where his team wasn't necessarily like a top 10 defensive team. He's just an unreal individual defender. The blocks and steals, the stocks, like you just can't match it from anyone. I mean, even Hakeem Olajuwon would love to have his his blocks and steals.
Right.
But the other guys, you have to have good team defense. And I think part of Dereck Lively's ceiling is, can he help the Mavericks reach their potential defensively? What they did at the last 3 months of the season was incredible to watch. And he was a big part of that, where he could come in and defend different positions, could defend the rim, and the blow-by rate that everybody talks about with Luka, like the percentage of players that would drive by Luka over and over again. Part of that is scheme, and Dereck Lively is part of that, is that they could funnel guys into him, and that it could be a good scheme for them to work. And you show those blow-by statistics in like 2 of those series. The Mavs won those series in 5 and 6 games. But I think for him to reach that all defensive, it has to be a team effort. And how can he lift that team going forward? And I kind of wonder this season if playing with Luka, Kyrie, and Klay Thompson, if that ends up being the starting lineup and the lineup that he plays with the most, if he ends up starting, is his work really cut out for him this season? Is this a season where he really has to prove, okay, everything that you showed in year 1 is true and can hold up maybe with a little bit more pressure, a little bit more trouble, because we're going from Derrick Jones Jr., who's a good defender, to Klay Thompson, who's, a good defender, but is getting up in years at this point.
It's a great point that you make, and I do think that there will be a white hot spotlight on him as the anchor of that defense this year with the change in personnel. But his eyes are wide open, right? We saw how everybody is going to attack the Mavericks and what will happen out on the perimeter, and the fact that, as you said, he's got to be there. The thing everybody used to love so much about Tyson Chandler was, you trusted him 100% to have your back, because you could feel him and hear him back, right? So that's the thing. So Dereck Lively is going to learn how to make his presence felt and his voice heard. And he's already shown he can do both of those things. And I really think he's going to he just needs to turn up the volume on that sort of monster personality, on that, he's got to be bigger than life. He's got to, and that will come with him learning to build trust with his new teammates. They're going to have to establish that early on. And they're going to have to find that chemistry. There's got to be a great deal of chemistry. They had to start to learn that, and it's a lot, they're not exactly just spending a lot of time with the same guys and kind of getting to, like, say, oh, we've done this for years with each other. Yeah. Like, no, last trade deadline, we changed it up dramatically. This start of this season, we're changing up dramatically. So they're going to have to work on the fly, and they're going to have to work quickly, because he is going to, as you said, really need to be the guy, the stopper back there.
Yeah, but I think they have the foundation with him. They have the trust already built up with the players that, the players in the scheme that matter, Luka and Kyrie. They already trust him, and I think all the new guys will take their cues from them. If they ever have any doubts about what Dereck Lively can do, like, they just ask those 2 stars, right? And I think that trust will come from them. Offensively, I think for him to hit his ceiling, can he add the 3-point shot? Does he have to? Is that how he hits his ceiling offensively, or is there an uber rim runner level that he can hit that we go, okay, he's hit his ceiling now, he doesn't need to add that 3 to his arsenal?
Well, does it have to be one or the other? Like, and is there no in between? Like, no. Can he not on this show? You're right. I'd like to see, honestly, what I'd like to see is an expanded offensive game, an expanded role in the offense, which begins by, obviously, let's not get away from the bread and butter. Let's not get away from the alley-oop threat. Let's not get away from owning the dunker spot, right? Knowing where you need to be, setting the screen perfectly, and the timing and all that stuff. That is going to be your bread and butter with him. But I do believe you can start to add some things. We've seen it. He says it, like, he wants to shoot, play make, bring the ball up the court, he even said, like, we don't have to get fancy, but you can also be a guy that quickly grabs a rebound, pushes pace. We've seen him to be a decent ball handler. I think there are, why not add a little post-up game, polish a little post-up game, especially if you get a little bit stronger, a little, hook shot around the rim, continue to add to that, like, ridiculous field goal percentage. offensive rebound, right? That's another place you can add scoring wise. Free throw shooting. Make your free throws. Like if that's another thing, like we saw how often, they're going to, what did you call it? Because it wasn't Hack Lively. You had a great name. There, I knew it was. Like let's just get to where you're 4 or 5 from the free throw line. You might even have a game where you go 12 times like he had. I can't remember if that was the playoffs, made 8 of them. Like those are where I would like to see it now. But I want him to stretch the floor. It sounds fun. And from all, accounts, he can shoot like that. I don't know that it's like we're going to just look at a guy who's going to become, a dead-eye 3-point shooter. Right.
You heard it here first. Dana Larson said that Dereck Lively, he's like that. That's what Dana just said. I think to hit his absolute peak and to hit his ceiling, I think the 3-point shot does have to come around. But if it doesn't, like you said, you can still be as effective as he was last season with the passing out of the short roll. If he adds a little bit more of that post up, we saw it a couple times where the post up, the hook shot, it was really slow getting into it, but maybe he speeds that up, works on the footwork a little bit more. But coming up, let's talk about the things he needs to work on to get there. How does he get to his ceiling? How does he get to these next levels? We talked about some of these things already, but there's one thing specifically I think he needs to do to get to these ceilings. We'll talk about that coming up.
You don't believe you shouldn't be here. Shut it down! Let's go home!
All right, Dana, we're talking about Dereck Lively, and we love doing it. We just love doing it. There's just a smile on my face when I talk about Dereck Lively. I took the Tim Cato from The Athletic, the Mavs fan survey, and one of the questions is, who is your favorite non-Luka Maverick right now? And Dereck Lively was the first one on the list, and I was like, easy. Easy. Just check that one. Boom. Move on.
Was he running away with it?
Oh, I don't know the results yet. I've asked.
No, got it.
Let me know. I've asked. And by the time this comes out, you may know the results listening. But and we'll talk about it and probably have Tim on to talk about it and all that. But what does Dereck Lively need to do to reach his ceiling, to hit this next level that we've been talking about? I think one of the things that you mentioned early on, and one of the big things that I wrote down, is work on strength. To be bigger, to not get pushed around as much. We saw from the beginning, he learned a lot. The very first preseason game, he gets pushed by Rudy Gobert, gets dunked on, and we didn't see that throughout the rest of the season because he worked on it. He learned it a little bit more. But just to add a little bit more strength, I think those post-up moves, I think rebounding, I think there's a lot of things in his game that will improve if he just gets a little stronger, which you expect, but it is something he has to do to hit that next level.
Yeah, there's no question about it for me, too, because I think it affects like literally everything. Yeah. It will be. And it's not one of those things where we want him, to like go beyond what his actual body can hold, right? You're not crazy here. I think the game has evolved to the point where this body type, these 7-foot lanky guys, they can be thin like that, but strong. There's a different way, of kind of, I guess, because we want him to be mobile. You don't want to lose that. You don't want to gain like an amount of strength that takes away his mobility, because that's one of the things that I think has been, impressive with him already to this point, is his ability, to be able to move, to be able to, even because they're going to need him to get out on just smaller defenders out on the perimeter, but be able to get back quickly, right? To defend the post. So I think that's going to be the key, is like finding the right way that he can continue to add strength. But it'll help him stay out of foul trouble. I think too, because that's another thing that will be important for him, is just, you don't want that foul percentage. You don't want those to be things that take you off the court. Your net rating for this team is so crucially important when you are on the court. We need more Dereck Lively, not less.
That's right. So that to me is an offensive and a defensive thing he needs to work on, is strength. You also mentioned another one before that I had written down, was free throws. He shot 50% from the free throw line last year. We've seen Dereck Lively have moments where you're like, okay, looks like his shot looks pretty good, and then you have moments where you mentioned the OKC series where they were doing the deck of Dereck or the hack a Shaq or whatever you want to call it, where they're fouling him intentionally. And one game when Kyrie Irving said, "Hey, just step up and take the free throws. Don't play tag and run away from." Remember that play where he runs away from Chet?
I'll never forget
it. Oh my gosh, so funny looking. But Kyrie went up to him, said, "Hey, just step up and take it. Take it as a compliment that they are challenging you. And he went 8 of 12. The Mavs won that game and ended up winning that series. And he was a big reason that they did. But he does have to get better at the free throw line. And I think that if he gets a little bit more aggressive on offense and gets fouled a little bit more, because now he's going to be known as as a threat and teams will be doing that to him, he'll get more chances, more opportunities. Instead of, a lot of his free throws, he takes 1 in one game. He takes 2 in another game. It's not like he's taking 4 or 5, 6 in a game where he gets a little bit of a rhythm, touches the ball a little bit more. He's not even taking any jumpers in a game either. So his free throws last year were the only jumpers he was taking besides the 1-3 he made in the finals. Like, those are the only jump shots he was really taking to get that rhythm in.
Yeah, how do they, and this is not to your point on the free throws, but like, it's going to be interesting how the Mavericks try to expand his offensive role. Like, if they want him to grow into these things that they're talking about, they're going to have to find a way to do that where he isn't taking one jump shot a week in a game, right? Or, getting to the free throw line,
jump shot
only here and there, right? If you want him to add this part to the game and to the team, and that's not easy when you've got enough balls to go around for Luka, Kyrie, PJ, Clay.
Dinwiddie.
The list is long. Right. Yeah, no kidding. So anyway, that's just the other thing. Not only is it stuff we're looking at for Dereck to have to do, but the Mavericks have to think this through too. And of course they are, how we help him add these things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think another thing that he needs to work on to get to this next level, and this is a weird one that I think maybe strength will help, but I'm not really sure what he needs to do to get better at this, but I think he does. Can he avoid injuries next season? He played 55 games out of 82, and he missed 1.5 playoff games, but they were all these freak injuries. And you just hope that maybe it was just an unlucky streak. The broken nose in 3 places, like that's not a soft tissue injury in any sort of the imagination. It's the play where Scoot Henderson like undercuts him a little bit, and then he hurts himself. You just had a couple of plays like that where you go, man, like, if only he could have avoided that. If only he could have just stepped to the side. If only this could have been a little different. But health for him, I think, is going to be a big thing because they need him to be available. And they do have a great backup. Or if Gafford ends up starting, then they do have another option with him. But health. He only played 55 games in his rookie year, and I think that's one of the reasons why he didn't make first team All Rookie.
Stay healthy. I had it written down too. I mean, I agree. I think too, if he had taken like 4 more field goal attempts, he would have been the league leader in effective field goal percentage. But like so many of those things, he was just under because of the fact that he didn't get to play as many games. He did deal with a lot of different things that you just hope were unfortunate, were fluky, were bad luck, that are out of the way, and there is, maybe you're right, maybe adding a little strength and having like a full year of an NBA training program and training staff around you constantly could really, really help, because you don't want to become known as injury prone, and they need him too much. And you're right. Thankfully, they have built some depth at a position they historically have not been deep at. So credit Nico Harrison for getting that center position in a really good place.
The last interesting thing I thought about Lively when I was thinking about all the different facets of his game, besides maybe the 3-point shot, which I guess we did see in the finals the one time. Besides the 3-point shot, is there anything else in his game that the Mavs need him to do that we haven't already seen? So is there a skill he needs to add to go to the next level, or does he just need to get better at the things that we've already seen? Which is like an interesting thing when you think about a young player, because we talk about a Jaden Hardy. All right, he's got to get better at ball handling. We really haven't seen him do that. He's got to add that to his game. He's got to add this to his game. He's got to add passing and reads to his game. You talk about all these young players, and you're like, all right, they've got to add this. But with Lively, maybe the 3 is the one thing, but he just needs to enhance all the things that he does. He doesn't need to add anything else to get to his peak.
I think you're right. I literally had build on the things that come so naturally to him. So I'm right there with you on that. And if there are hidden talents, Dereck Lively hidden talents that we've yet to discover, I'm happy to embrace them as well.
You think he's like Najee Marshall?
I'm talented at everything, to be honest.
Well done, Nick. Well done. I do. I think he is. I think he has that kind of confidence, and he probably will find all sorts of things that we learn about him. But I think you're probably right that they don't need him to have maybe beyond the 3-point shot more than what he already brings. I think he is, just really the kind of player they need. And now you just have, the excitement of what it looks like as you build experience and strength and, continued basketball IQ to what's already a really, really good player.
He's starting from a really good place. He's got an incredible ceiling that we think he can get, a potential defensive player of the year, all defense. We think that he can add a 3-point shot and become a, multifaceted threat on offense. We've already seen him pass out of the short roll and make incredible decisions, playmaking. He's starting at a really good place. There's a ceiling to get to, and he has to just build on the skills that he already has. It's an incredible place to be, which is like podcasting with Dana Larson. Incredible place to be. So Dana, thanks for joining us on Locked On Mavs. We'll be back tomorrow with more talking about your Dallas Mavericks here on Locked On Mavs all throughout the summer. So thanks for checking out the show. Subscribe on the podcast. Subscribe to the Insiders program. Peace out. Boom.